Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the My Wrong Opinion podcast, where my opinion is wrong. I might be wrong, but I will fight like I'm right. It has been a long time. Welcome, once again. Here we are. Yeah, I think I might have talked about this before. For those of you guys who don't follow me on Instagram, I've kind of been very transparent about this process. I am kind of reformatting to a degree and like reshaping what it is that I'm doing with my channel. It's still the same thing. I'm not switching it out for like a whole new thing. Like I'm just out here doing some crazy stuff. It's more so like what my intention of my channel is, what I want to do. Kind of lined up with what I believe God wants me to do. So with that being said, we're going to do some research today. Well, not really research. I'm going to talk about the red pill community. For those of you who don't know what the red pill community is, I will tell you. And that's what this episode is going to be about. I want to try and give some perspective on things. And me being a believer, I also want to try and give a spiritual implication behind some of the stuff that I talk about. Like I said, if you're a non-believer, I understand if you check out. But I would encourage you to at least hear it out, just as an alternative perspective. But with that being said, I'm just going to go into it. So basically, some of you guys might know what the red pill community is. Some of you might not know what the red pill community is. Basically, well, first off, what is the red pill? So the red pill and what the idea of the red pill is it's based off of the Matrix. For those of you who have ever watched the Matrix, you'll know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know, basically the idea of the Matrix is that humanity lost the war with machines a long time ago, and as like a truce, humanity offered up some of its people to the machines, and the machines used the people as a power source. And just so they don't go mind crazy and end up dying in the pods, they created a program called the Matrix, which basically looks like the world we have today. But it's all a computer generated program. People grow up, grow old, live their lives, and die. But what they don't know is that they're actually in a fake world created by machines. And so Morpheus, one of the characters in the movie, at one point offers Neo, the main character in the movie, an option. He has in his hand a red pill and a blue pill. The red pill is the basically his invitation to get out of the Matrix, to go out and experience the actual world, not the world that is fabricated for him. The blue pill is basically he wakes up the next day and just forgets this all happened. Obviously, Neo takes the red pill, and that's how the Matrix movie starts. So, with the similar vein, the red pill community basically adopted this idea and is saying that we as men are now waking up from this overly feminized world that we have all been kind of raised up in this point, and are seeking now to point out the inconsistencies and issues with the way the world works, specifically with male-female relationships, based mostly off of the idea of feminism and what they think that it stands for. Most of these ideas actually, well, at least for what I know, mostly as ideas I don't think are really new, but they're kind of compiled and brought together by a guy whose name is Rollo, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Rollo Tomassi. And who Rollo Tomassi is basically, they call him the godfather of the red pill community. He apparently had been involved with the red pill community and the manosphere, which I'll get to that in a second, for like 20 plus years. And he wrote a book called The Rational Male in around 2013, and that is basically considered the Bible of the red pill community. That's where you get a lot of their ideologies from. That's where you get the idea of what's called hypergamy, and where Mr. Tomassi describes the red pill and manosphere ideology is more so not an ideology but a praxeology, and we'll get to praxeology in a second as well. So basically, the manosphere, for those of you who don't know what that is either, and you really should, as far as this red pill stuff as well, you guys need to actually get an idea of some of the stuff that's going on, because it's actually growing, and it's growing at a rate that I don't think a lot of you understand, and it's getting more and more prevalent, especially amongst men. And to be honest with you, to kind of go a little bit out of order, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but we'll get into that in a second. So the manosphere basically is a collection of like websites, blogs, forums, all this other stuff that are promoting what they consider to be traditional ideals of masculinity, anti-feminist rhetoric, to what people would describe what other people would describe as misogynistic views, and basically just like anti-women mentality, where they define their common enemy, not even really their enemy, but like a woman to look out for is what's known as the modern woman. And the modern woman, as they describe it, is a woman who is combative, who is unsubmissive, overly sexual, conceited, the strong, independent woman idea, with a contempt for men. And they look at that as like, this is what feminism has brought women to the idea now where women look at men with contempt. They look down on men, they use men, they focus on all the wrong things in a relationship. They think that men want what they want in a man. I'll get to that in a second. But basically, that's what the idea is. And they describe the modern woman as most women today. Now, to some of these definitions. So, hypergamy is not necessarily unique to women, but it's something that most women typically are known to practice. It's basically the action of marrying or forming some type of relationship with a person who they think is, quote unquote, superior. Like a person of a higher status, or a higher educational background, higher economic standing, stuff like that. So like hypergamy is basically, I'm going to marry or be involved with somebody who I think is either richer than me, smarter than me, or has a higher status than me. You could loosely connect that to the idea of clout chasing if it's easier to understand it, but that's basically what that is. And then also praxeology. So when the people in the manosphere say things like, we're just stating reality, like we're just saying how men and women function, that's what praxeology is. It is the study of human action and conduct. And a lot of the red pill community will do this because what is believed about the red pill community is that a lot of these people are actually telling men what to do, or giving them what's called prescriptions, like things that you should apply to your own life to better your life and things like that. And a lot of the red pill community actually says, no, we're not doing that. We're simply being praxeological with our understandings of the world. Like we're literally just telling you what is happening. We're not telling you what to do. We're not telling you how to think about it. As Rollo Tomasi will say, he gives you the nuts and bolts of how modern society works, and you kind of just do what you want with it. So that's kind of the whole idea of it. And then misogyny, for those who don't know, is basically a dislike, contempt for ingrained prejudice. It's a prejudice against women. I got most of these definitions off of Google, so if you want to look them up, you can find them as well. So that's what they go for. They're basically saying, hey men, wake up, you're being played, these women aren't really looking out for your best interest. The idea that these women are so innocent and so sweet and all this other good stuff and all this stuff is really just it's a flaw, it's a facade, it's a matrix, it's not real. The reality is that women are actually, due to the sexual, and this is based off of some of the stuff in the book, like based off of the sexual liberation movement and things that came with feminism. It's gotten now to an extreme, to the point where women are starting to try and act like men. And they as the red pill community don't think that they believe in the idea of traditional gender roles. They like the ideal is that a man works, he earns his income, the woman stays with the kids, the woman submits to the man, all that good stuff. Now, as a Christian, you will hear that and you'll say, well, what's the problem with that? To a degree, technically, there isn't really, because as you'll soon find out if you engage in this manosphere red pill community, some of the stuff that they think, and I have to be specific, some of the stuff that they think actually does line up with some of the things that we traditionally view our Christian idea of what a relationship is, where the man is the head of a household, the woman is to submit to man's authority, but ultimately you guys are both submitting to Christ, but the flow of authority basically goes like that. But what you'll find is how they view that and how they apply that are two completely different things. So the reason why I'm talking about the red pill community, and the reason why I think you guys should be focusing on this, at least a little bit. I don't say you gotta be paranoid, looking over your shoulder to wonder who's gonna cram a red pill down your throat. It's more so just understanding that this movement, and it is a movement, it's growing, it's becoming more prevalent, more people are adopting it, more people are getting drawn in by it. I almost got drawn in by it because of some personal stuff that I might share on this channel at some point. But I started, before I realized it, started trying to adopt some of this. Kevin Samuels, some of you guys heard me talk about Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels, if Rollo Tomasi was like the godfather of of the red pill community, you could say Kevin Samuels was like Muhammad Ali. Like he was the one that kind of brought it to the black community and kind of went with that. Some of his viewpoints, especially when it comes to things like marriage and stuff like that, or the idea of a high value man, stem from some of this ideology. So basically, what I think about the red pill community is twofold. One, I actually do think they bring up some very valid points. They're opening up a conversation that actually does need to be had, because I genuinely do believe that there is a contempt for men, especially with their issues, and I don't think that the issues that men face are considered valuable, or at least as valuable as a woman's issues. There's a socially speaking, there's like a haze over like what we think about men's issues are. We tend to dismiss them, brush them off, treat them as whatever. But the problem with that, and the reason why that's an issue, is because that mindset is actually what caused the red pill community to grow. I spoke about this before a long time ago. Some of y'all don't like when I say this, but I'm going to continue to say it. Women are the reason why the red pill community exists. Like, that sounds crazy. Damon, you're blaming women. Kind of I am. Like, the way that some women move. Some, and I have to be specific, some women, and I'm going to get to that later. That's the reason why I'm saying some. But the reason why some women have interacted with men in such ways that have led men to feel so, like, how the word for it, spurned or snake bitten by the world that they live in. They were told one thing by women, and essentially found out that when they tried to exercise those things, they didn't get the results they were looking for. And it left a lot of men like frustrated, bitter, and upset about that. Men that got played by women, men that got used for like friend-zoned men. People could describe these people as like incels, and what an incel is it's an involuntary celibate and ban. That's how they describe it. It's internet terms. You don't have to base too much in it, but basically it's the idea that like this man is going to be a virgin forever because he just doesn't understand women, all that good stuff. And a lot of these men didn't feel like they had a space to even talk about these things because of the idea of like radicalized feminism. Like, your issues don't matter. It's women, women, women all the time. And you can even see it in media. Like, men are viewed as like these oafish, bumbling people, and like, well, and it's sitcoms traditionally, they're like oafish, bumbling, whatever, and the woman is usually the more competent one that kind of has to drag the guy along. You see that, and then also with the female empowerment movement, we've seen a lot of movies with a lot of female leads and stuff like that, which is actually a good thing, but it also unfortunately has the side effect where it kind of strengthens these ideas that like men are inferior to women, which is kind of countercultural, because for the longest time it was believed that men thought they were superior to women, and it probably was true. I can't deny that. But what the red pill community is trying to expose is that what you're not fighting for is actually equality. What you want is to be superior to men, and you want men to be like women. But the issue with that is, and what they'll point out, is that you want men to be like women, but you don't want a man that acts like a woman. So you're almost setting yourself up for failure. And they actually do bring up valid points with that, because, I mean, how do I say this? Like, women don't want men that are passive, that are weak-willed, that are overly emotional, but they'll say things like, I want you to open up to me, I want you to be emotional with me, I want you to be vulnerable with me, or things like, I don't want a man who's like always bossy all the time trying to tell me what to do. I want a man who's like lets me lead and lets me take the forefront. And what actually gets frustrating with that is that when you get that type of relationship, you typically don't respect it, don't value it. You say that the man isn't stepping up or meeting your needs. He's not being who you thought he was initially. And then you go for the guy that you said that you hated, the guy who is perceivedly an a-hole, the guy that's talking down to you and stuff like that. And a lot of men have seen that. A lot of men, myself included, have seen and experienced that to a certain degree. And that leaves a lot of us in this space where it's like, yo, what is going on? And then in comes the red pill community where it's like, yeah, those feelings are valid. Yeah, absolutely. That is happening. Because the world around you is telling you that you see how, and it just goes from there. Now, why I say the red pill community is good is because that voice is actually important. It actually does need to be heard. it brings up a conversation about how we need to be more transparent with each other about how not only how we interact with each other, but our expectations of each other. Because I don't think, if we can be honest with ourselves, I don't think women are as honest with what they want in a man, and I don't think men fully understand what they want in a woman. And I think that the way that we treat each other at times, especially when it comes to things like the court system, are really foul. And the red pill community does point out that there are some issues that women do have. Hypergamy actually is a thing. It's not just a construct. It's not just a fantasy. It's not a lie. It actually is a thing. Women traditionally do follow in that path. Some of them, a good portion of them, enough to where it's widely reviewed as a woman practice as opposed to a male practice. That's why I'm saying it's a good thing. Like it's a voice that's needed because, like I said, men's issues aren't necessarily given the validity that they need, and when that doesn't happen, you'll have these very extreme, borderline misogynistic views that a lot of these men tend to might have towards women. Like the idea that a woman is just good for giving me children, having sex with me when I want them to, submitting to my authority, and that's it. Like, and obviously that's an issue because that's not really us working together, building a healthy household for a common goal. It's more so me, man, you, woman, you shut up and listen. And that isn't, obviously women don't want that, but what they don't realize is that the more and more they try to shut down the issues that men face both in relationships and in the court system, legally, and even in society at large, the more that ideology will become bigger and bigger and start, taking full effect. Some of the issues that men do face, which is a real thing. We talk about friend zone in almost a kidding way, but let's be honest. Some women out here are actually literally just using men for attention. They're stringing them along, giving them the idea that they might be interested, they might not, really just so they could get a good night text every night, so they can have somebody that is giving them that attention that they're looking for. And that is a extremely predatory practice. It is a problem. It happens. And that's what I'm saying. That's what the red pill community, that's a part of the reason why they're getting so much traction, is because the more we try to bring up that actually is happening, that actually is an issue, there's society and even women that are saying, no, it's not. You're wrong. You're being misogynistic. You're being patriarchal. You're all this other stuff. And I can get into patriarchy. We talked about patriarchy in the past. I still don't know what they mean when they say patriarchy, because again, when we look at the stats, it doesn't look as bad as they say it is. But anyway. So, women start shoving those ideas away, pushing them off the table. Society as a whole says, very much forget you and how you feel. And so a lot of these men specifically, so a lot of these men feel completely spurred, not just by the women that they thought were trying to help them, but also the society that ultimately shows they don't care about them. And so it's like, yo, what the heck am I supposed to do? Like, my points aren't being addressed. My issues aren't being given the validity they deserve. And I just what's going on? And it creates that bitterness, that resentment, that frustration, that anger that then eventually builds itself up to a misogynistic mindset to where you actually literally do not like women. And you will belittle them to the point where they're only there for your sexual satisfaction or your pleasure, whatever you want to view them for. And that is unfortunate. But that is a consequence when these conversations aren't being had like they need to. So friend zone is one example. Obviously, I've talked ad nauseum about how child support and the court system with regards to children is just not favorable towards fathers, especially fathers that are trying to be involved. I've already talked about that at length, and we don't talk about that enough. And that's another point I'm trying to bring up. And then, obviously, the idea that women don't traditionally, and this is, I'm saying for the most part, don't look at men that are perceivedly at their level or lower. And they usually go for men that are higher earners, higher status, all these different things. What doesn't get talked about is that it almost is always connected to income level. And the way that women treat men, that they, especially in a relationship, that don't make as much as they do, is extremely toxic. There's a contempt, there's a lack of respect for, there's a complete disrespect of those type of men because them and society affirms that men like that are bums. To whereas on the flip side, most men typically don't really care if a woman makes less than a man does, because they're not necessarily looking for whether or not that woman is a provider. What they're looking for is that woman attractive? Can she bear my children? And is she willing to work with me? But the frustrating part of that, and I'll get into my Christian beliefs about this in a second, but like what's frustrating about those conversations is that it further affirms what the red pill community keeps talking about. When men are bringing up that's like, because women will say things like, well, I want a man who makes a lot of money. I want a man who is hardworking. I want a man who is a boss in his own right, metaphorically, right? I want a man who's like that. So naturally, men want that in a woman, right? And unfortunately, media plays a part in that. But that's like, well, that's obviously what a man would want in a woman, right? And men are telling women, no, that's not what we want. Like, we don't want women that act like men. We want women that act like women. But when that gets said, it's either completely ignored or treated like you're being misogynistic or you hate women. When in reality, all they're doing is saying the things that they actually want in a relationship. And that gets shut off and cut down. And that's the frustrating part, because that's what continues to perpetuate the red pill community, gives them the vitriol that they need to be able to continue to promote their narratives, to the point where we have children literally saying that Andrew Tate is their role model. For those of you who don't know who Andrew Tate is, I'm not gonna go into it. We don't have time. I'm trying to keep these things under an hour, because I know you guys be hating when I be talking too much. But like, that's a problem. I'll just say that's a problem for any of you guys who don't know who Andrew Tate is. You won't, because he's banned. He's banned off of YouTube and Instagram for some of the stuff that he was saying. Now, let me also be fair to Andrew Tate. I don't think he should have been banned for what he was saying, because I really don't think all of the stuff he was saying was really necessarily that bad. I really don't. And in some ways, he actually was saying some positive things, like about like how men should be. And I'll get to like what I think is good about the red pill community in a second, but it's like he was actually speaking on some somewhat positive things, but it's just like his views on women to a certain degree, and like his expectation in relationships was just so far left field. It was just like, yeah, this is crazy. So that's why I'm saying, like, you gotta pay attention to it. You can't just ignore it, because your children might very well be thinking, your sons might be watching TikTok videos of red pill guys and then looking at women like, wait a second, and then they grow up with that, and the cycle just continues to go. So that's why you need to take that seriously. But yeah, so that's why I think the red pill community is a voice that needs to be heard. And if you guys don't know who Abba and Preach is, they're YouTube guys that I listen to a lot, and they actually say the same thing, and they talk about that somewhat as well. Because it is a voice. Like, men do have issues. Men do have problems. Men do have issues even with women. And it feels like those voices are not being heard. And the more and more they feel ignored, the more and more they feel spurred, the more and more this thing grows. I'm repeating myself, but I'm saying it for emphasis. So that's why that's some of the good things I think are good about it. They also promote the idea of self-improvement, right? Like, red pill community guys, they create this idea of a high value man. For those of you guys who don't know when I say high value man, what I mean by that, and I said it before when I talked about Kevin Samuels, but it's basically a man who has a high status, earns over six-figure income, has a network of men that he's useful for, and they're useful for him, and has the ability basically to get any type of woman he wants. And the red pill community will often want to encourage men to be the best version of themselves that they can be. Some of them do. Some others try to tell men to be high value men, and there's a problem with that, and I'll get to that later. So that's actually a good thing. Like, the idea that you're supposed to go to the gym, you're supposed to take care of yourself, like, you're supposed to respect yourself, right? Don't waste time with people who are just sucking, like, the life out of you. Don't waste time with superficial women that are only just here to get what they can get from you and leave. Like, go for like, well, hopefully they're saying this. I'm being charitable when I'm saying this, but like hopefully they're encouraging men to look for women that are actually a benefit to their lives. You know what I mean? So those are good things, right? And they also, and like I said, they expose some of the negative things that women do. That's also a good thing because those things need to be talked about. My issues with them, there's a good amount of them, but my issues with them are basically like most of these guys, especially on YouTube, they're very one-sided when it comes to the way that they interact with women, and really anybody that disagrees with them, because they're on the whole like we have the facts, we have the knowledge, we have the truth, right? And anybody else that disagrees, you're a beta male, you're a blue pill, you're weak. Or for women, oh, you're just a masculine woman. You are a strong, independent. Like, they literally laugh when they hear strong, independent woman. Like, that's kind of how they feel about it. Things like that. Like, they're not really. I mean, some of them will hear it, but most of the idea is like, no, I know what's really going on. Like, you're saying that, but that's not really true because you're just hypergamous like the rest of these other women. And that's what I'm saying. So like, they believe they have the truth. They don't really acknowledge other opinions. They have a really gross oversimplification of relationships to the point where it's almost borderline utilitarian, where like man works, man provides, man comes home, man eats, man has sex, man goes to sleep. Woman looks good, like submits to man, has sex with man, bears children, wakes up, does it again. Like, that's kind of how they want it to be. And they also want something else that I'm going to get to in a second with regards to that. But another issue I have with them as well is that although they claim to be praxeological with the way that they do things, they are making prescriptions without, whether they want to admit it or not. Like, they're constantly talking about these women are doing this, these women are doing that, these women are tearing down men, these women blah 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 blah. And if you want to be a strong man, just know what's really going on. You know what I'm saying? Now they say it like that, and so they can kind of come off like, well, we're just saying how it is. But anybody that listens to these men will realize, like, you're perpetuating a mindset that a lot of these men should have. Some of it's good, a lot of it's bad, and so that's kind of one of my issues with them. They do perpetuate the idea that most, if not all, women are just out for your money. They don't really want to bring any benefit to you as a person. And they just want to use you for clout or whatever they can use you for, and then they'll just leave you high and dry. That's what they want you to believe all women really are trying to do. Like, they don't really care about you. They just care about what they can get. And they don't even know what they want. So that was another issue. Some of that is true. Like, there are women out there that do operate that way. But it's, again, that's the problem, is that they try to make it as wide and as broad as possible. And it's just, that's just not true. Without realizing it, they also will continue to they will empower, and I'll give them this credit. They're not necessarily trying to do this, but unfortunately, like, the more interactions they have with like some of these crazy women. Some of you guys actually saw the video that I showed you guys, the last video, the normalized toxicity video. That is a red pill guy doing those interviews, and when you heard my responses, right? You can just imagine what that does for a man who has been burned, scorned, and like pretty much torn down by women his entire life. He sees something like that, and it just continues to fester. It just continues to fester and like perpetuate that idea that all women are terrible, and that's a negative impact as well. There are inconsistencies with what they want. Like, they want a woman. So some of the red pill guys will say things like, if a woman doesn't put out within like the first week of you guys dating, she's not worth your time. I know some of you guys just like mind blown by that, but their reasoning for that is that you're looking for a relationship. Like, a relationship is basically a negotiation, and sex is on the table. And for women, men's time and attention is on the table. So basically what you're trying to do is you're trying to leverage to get as much of what you want out of the interaction as possible while conceding as little of your side of it, if that makes sense. So like, and it's a countercultural statement against women who just like literally use, which is true, they use men for free meals, for goodnight text messages, and just for likes on their Instagram page. And what they're saying is like, look, if this woman's going to play you like that and she's just going to use you for a free meal, if she don't put out within a week, don't waste your time with it. Like, because you can go find a woman that'll do that. And obviously women take exception to that. And it's crazy to even think that way, but it is a thing that they talk about, which is a prescription that they try to say is not one. So that's one of the things. Another thing is like, for high value men, like for women, if you're dealing with a high value man, he's going to cheat on you. You need to accept the fact that he's going to cheat on you, and you need to just get as much out of his relationship or your relationship with him as you can. Make sure that you're the one that he's primarily providing for. Make sure you're the one that he's giving the security to. Things like that. Which, I mean, if we're talking about a secular sense, I don't, it's crazy. Like when they say high value man, they're not talking about character, and that's another issue I have. The idea of a high value man and what a high value man is almost exclusively based off of superficial things like income, status, and the appearance of being a ladies' man. Very little of it has to do with your actual character as a man. So that's an issue as well. What was it? I got a couple more. Like, and obviously, like as a believer, like they offer very little to your actual spiritual well-being, because some of the stuff that they promote and advocate for, like I said, if a woman doesn't put out, kick her to the curb. Hey, have as many women on your roster as possible, so that if homegirl's wasting your time, you can go ahead and hop on the next train that you see. So it's just like stuff like that. Women are really only good for being seen, not heard. It's yeah. Not all the red pill guys are like that, but enough of them are like that to where, like I said, Andrew Tate is he's not a problem, but when kids are looking up to guys like that, you got to really take some inventory as to what actually is going on. You know what I mean? But that, and like I said, to go back to some of the good things, they do point out that some women actually do have Kevin Samuels was notorious for this. Some of y'all don't like it, but it actually is true. There are a good number of women out there who have completely unrealistic expectations of what they want in a man. And like I said, unfortunately, it is almost always exclusively tied to income. I've told you guys before, some of the videos I've seen, some of the expectations that these women have of men is insane. And what's even more insane is, like I said before, the women that hear these things not only don't say anything about it and don't rebuke it or whatever, they in fact encourage it, empower it, to a point where we got people on Twitter like boosting these women to a degree where they get so delusional that they don't realize that they're going to soon become a part of a statistic that is real, where they're going to become a part of one of the most unhappiest group of people in this country. Unmarried women, unmarried childless women in their 40s. If I remember that study correctly. Most unhappiest people in the world, in the country, in America. So I think it's okay. So the unhappiest, and this is from Psychology Today, so take it with a grain of salt. They did a study a few years back. Now it might not be true now, it might have changed. But at that time, the unhappiest person in America was a female at 42, unmarried with no children, household income under $100,000, in a professional position. So what red pill guys will say to women is like, you think that, how do I say this? You think that by getting more money, that means that you're more attractive to the type of man that you want. But the problem is the type of man that you want cares very little about the career that you have or the type of amount of money that you want to make. And then on that same token, you will look down upon and completely ignore anybody who doesn't make the same amount of money that you do or has the same level of status that you want, which then severely limits your options because statistically speaking, I think it's less than 10% of the country. I think it's even less than that, actually. I think it's like closer to 1% of the country actually makes more than 6 figures a year, if I remember that correctly. Percentage of people who make 6 figures in America. And actually, it might be less than that. Hold on. Oh, never mind. According to what this says, Spend Me Not, recent study, the average. Oh, this done. There we go. Never mind. Shoot your shot. What does it say? The individual annual income of 20% of Americans exceeded. That is not. Wait. That is not true. There is no way that's true. This website is trying to say that the individual annual income of 24% of Americans exceeded 100,000. That's 1 out of 4. That is just not true. There is no way. Forget what I just said. Never mind. The statistics say that never mind. That is less than 7% of people in America actually make more than 6 figures a year, and that's just people. So like these women that want men with 6-figure salaries are going after less than 7% of the population. They also think that those men want them, and they also think that those men will be monogamous. And what the red pill community is saying is that if you want a man like that, you need to understand at your age, which more often than not they say like women in their late 20s, early 30s are the one, like any person 30 and up, it's like a death sentence basically is what they treat it like. You're an older woman. Because, and the reason why they say the age matters is not just because of looks, but also because of geriatric pregnancy. Like you increase your risk of not only not having children, but having children with health, like having health complications during pregnancy. So they say that you chasing after that is like throwing a needle in the haystack, and that's how you end up as a part of the supposed most unhappiest group of people in the country. That study was done about 9 years ago, so I don't know how accurate it is now, but I think for the most part, that number has definitely increased. Like there are more people, women are increasing in salary more and more and more, and that's why they say hypergamy is such an issue, is because women, like I said before, will not look below a certain income level, at least perceivedly, and that creates a problem where women are severely limiting their options. And they're not giving themselves, and this is what Kevin Samuels was saying for the most part, was like, you're limiting your options so small that you have almost no shot of getting what you want. And like, you need to humble your expectations a bit so that you have a wider access to more people who are, for the most part, they might be the best thing for you. But unfortunately, which is kind of true, some of these women don't want that. Some of them don't want it. Some of them don't want the idea of that because they think it's settling. They think it's beneath them. And the idea of settling is such a pervasive thing in our culture. Like, the idea that settling is a bad thing, it's weird. It's weird. It's weird. Especially when you're... it's not... I get what they're saying when it comes to settling. Like, you don't want to just settle with, like, a bum because you don't want to be alone. I get that mindset. But when you're shooting for the moon... and then you have the nerve to say there aren't any good men. It's like, there are. You just don't see them. Like, you just don't see them because you're shooting for the stars, and not even a rocket. You don't even have a bike and a ramp to get that high, and you're going to end up alone. And a lot of women would say, well, I'd rather be alone and happy than miserable in a relationship. But like red pill guys will say, statistically, that's not true. You're going to regret it. And who knows, like we're still early on in this phase. It's probably true. I'm not even going to lie. That's probably true. Like a lot of women, because you know the typical thing like, oh, I knew I had a great guy in college. he was probably like, you've heard these stories before. Like women will say like, oh, I had a really good guy in college. He was the best thing for me, and I blew it, and now I'll never get a guy like that again. That's what they'll say. Some of them will say that. Most of them won't say that. But it's like that mindset of like, you had a good thing and you lost it. And that's not, I mean, to be fair, that is somewhat true. Like, there are women that just don't see good guys, especially, and I brought this up before, like, there are dudes that make a good amount of money that could provide a stable home, but you'll never go for them because they don't have a high enough status. They're garbage men, they're electricians, they're blue collar dudes that earned a trade, started a business, and are making their own money. But you won't go for that because it's not a doctor, it's not a lawyer, it's not a Fortune 500 company owner, like CEO. And that's where hypergamy comes in. Like they call it female delusion, where like you want this so bad and you think that you deserve it, that you're willing to just completely ignore every other possible option, and like that creates a whole bunch of other issues. But is that all the way true? Not really. It is true enough for it to be a problem, but it's not like every woman in the country is thinking that way. A good enough portion of them are, unfortunately, I would say. And this is me being charitable. A red pill guy will tell you it's like 85% of women. I'm going to tell you it's probably more like 40%. 45. Well, no, like 40. 40. Not the majority, but not necessarily a small minority either. And that's what I say. They bring up a good conversation. Like, how realistic are we with the way that with what we expect from our partners? Because the woman, like I said before, the woman that wants that dude will, like, look down upon and disrespect the man that doesn't make that same amount, and like almost turn their nose up at it when they themselves don't even make that much. Or even if they do, that even makes them turn their nose up even higher to where they're almost looking like Boa Hancock. For One Piece reference, for some of y'all who don't know it. Like, so high up that their neck is like they're just looking down on somebody so badly. And it's not good. Now, to put that on the flip side, which is what red pill guys don't really talk about, is that a lot of guys really just focus on appearance and they give no thought to the substance of a woman. Her character, whether or not she would actually be a benefit. Like, forget just having, like, they say, yeah, I want a woman who will give me a lot of children, but they give no thought to, will that person actually be a good mother to my child? Like, they just want a woman with a nice body shape, fit, in shape, can give me a lot of kids. Usually they want younger, to the point where it almost gets creepy. Like, almost creepy. Like, to the point where guys in their 30s and 40s are bragging about having sex with 18-year-olds. It happens. It does happen in this community, and it is very, very weird. Very, very weird. But, so yeah, that's what they want, but they give no thought to the type of woman that they're allowing into their circle. They don't give any thought to whether or not this woman will actually be a benefit to them otherwise. And it creates a problem. And to be fair, a lot of the guys, so like just how girls like overlook the good guys, some guys overlook the good girls. Let's be fair. Some of you guys overlooked. I know these stories happen too. It's like, man, I had a really good woman. Dang, she was a really good one, man. I cannot believe I let that woman go. And the reason why you did is because you thought you could find somebody hotter. Like, you genuinely had a really good woman. She was feminine, but I mean, she had a gentle spirit about her. She was very supportive. She was very encouraging. She was intelligent. She could find ways to better your life, like make you a better person on top of bettering your, like, all these good things. But she was, to use the attractiveness scale, which I hate using, but I gotta use it, because she was a 6. You didn't really, like, you were with her, but you always were like, man, I need to find that 8. Or I need to find that 10. And, like, guys will go chase after women with big butts and smiles and are ruining their lives. I brought this up before in the last pod. Some of you guys really need to admit, like, some of y'all need to stop chasing after these really destructive women simply off of attraction alone. You're having kids with these women, and you're ruining your life and the life of those children because that woman has nothing going for her. And a lot of you guys need to actually take responsibility for that and realize you're part of that problem. Now, the red pill community, unfortunately, won't tell you that because they really don't want to how do I call this? They don't want to stir up that pot because they might lose a viewer base. Some of them will, and I respect the ones that do, but most of them won't. But most of, like, red pill guys won't tell you that, but you gotta stop doing that. Like, you gotta be okay with quote unquote dating an average person. And women gotta do the same thing. Y'all gotta be okay with dating a perceived average person. Cause most of us are average. Like, and that's another thing that the red pill community actually does, I would say, very well. They point out that some of these women have such an unnecessarily borderline narcissistic view of themselves, and it is damaging communities. It's damaging communities. Guys are doing the same thing. Guys are expecting like to date 9s and 10s on the attractiveness scale, but they have no work ethic. They don't have any prospects going for them. They're completely out of shape, but they're in their arrogant thinking, they think that they deserve a woman like that. And that's just as destructive. So, like, guys got to work on, first off, build themselves up, get themselves together, and go after women that are actually, like, good for them. That might not necessarily be the hottest woman in the world, but she's attractive. She is attractive to you. She actually brings things into your life that are actually good. You need to start actually focusing on that. Because that'll create a very, like, when we all talk, and the red pill community talks about this too. We all want a happy home, right? We want healthy homes. We want children to grow up in good environments. They say that, but then they go after these women that are just overly sexualized, high attractiveness level, but very low character. And they're having sex with these women, having children by these women that end up becoming bitter, angry baby mamas. Like what are you talking about? You want a healthy household, but you're giving no thought to the type of woman that you're dealing with. You know what I mean? It's backwards. It's backwards as muck. And like they say they want a woman with a low body count, but at the same time, if a woman doesn't put out within a week, she's not worth your time. Like that is a literal contradiction. It's not even a paradox. It's a contradiction. It doesn't make sense. Like it is an antithesis to what you say that you want, but you still expect it. So, and that's why I'm saying that's some of the issues I have with them. But like every woman thinks that they're a 9 or a 10, and they're not. And they need to stop thinking that. Some of y'all, I hate saying, I gotta keep it real with y'all. I'm not gonna pull punches. Some of y'all are 5s and 6s at best, and need to be okay with that. And you need to be the best 6 that you can be. You need to be the best 6 that you can be, because the best you is the best you. That sounds like weird, but let's hear what I'm saying. The best you is the best you. Guys, I think guys, to a degree, kind of understand this to an extent, a little bit more than women do. That margin is not wide. It's like maybe 5-10%, if I could throw it out there. But I do think more men are willing to accept, yeah, I mean, I'm not the most attractive guy in the world, so I probably should focus on being funny, or I need to be really good at basketball, or I need to make sure that I know what I want to do with my life and actually start focusing on that. Like guys will do that quicker than I think women will. But there's still a lot of bums out there that are still like, I don't care, I want a 10 no matter what. It's just weird. But y'all gotta really be okay with where you're at and just seek to improve that as best as possible. And the idea, and I hate this idea, and I'm going to repeat it again, the idea that average is bad needs to stop. Because that's almost all of us. And if a lot of y'all really just allowed yourselves to be humble with that, you would find each other and be happy together, because you're not looking at Instagram and getting salty. You're not looking at Twitter at these $30,000 trips to Boca that they went in debt to get and getting salty. And that's a Western world thing. I don't think a lot of people on the Eastern side are worried about that. Most of them are focused. Alba brought this up, which is a really good point. A lot of the women over there on that side are focused more so on duty, like responsibility, like what's good for the family, which has its own negative things. I'm not saying that it's all the way good, but there is some merit in understanding that, like, the things that you should want in a marriage are things that will actually last in a marriage. Not like a guy has to be a high earner. He has to have clout, and he has to have a six-pack. It's not bad to be physically fit. Don't hear me say that. But, like, none of those things lead to a healthy marriage. Like, six-figure salary helps with, like, financial security, but I mean, I gotta find out where the study is at. But apparently, like, there's a study out there that proves that, like, past a certain income level, your happiness doesn't increase. I don't know exactly where that threshold is. Now, to be fair, lower than that threshold, income does matter, but higher than that, no. The more money you get doesn't necessarily mean the happier you are. I think it's the threshold is like when you're able to pay for all of your significant bills and be able to save up a somewhat small amount of money a month. Like, when you're able to do that, like, if you go beyond that, like, you're not really going to improve your quality of life all that much. You'll buy better and nicer things, but it's not really going to improve your happiness. And I think that if we allowed ourselves to be humble with our expectations and humble with ourselves, we wouldn't continue to chase after these things that really don't matter and put ourselves in compromising positions and create very unhealthy, toxic relationships that don't yield any good fruit. So that's what I'm saying. So as far as the red pill community, y'all, just understand, start having the conversation. That's the best way you're going to be able, if you want to combat this red pill wave that's slowly taking over, you need to start having these conversations and stop ignoring them. Like, genuinely have them and stop ignoring them, because otherwise it's just the trend is just going to continue. It's not going to stop, and everybody and their mama literally is going to end up looking over their shoulder and finding out that little Timmy has, like, an open flayed shirt, black sunglasses, and calling women fat. Like, they're going to say the only thing a woman's good for is how many kids she can give me. Like, that's going to happen. More than you may realize. So for believers out there, I think that we as believers need to understand that attractiveness is good and it is important, right? But we also need to take into account the person as they are as a believer of Christ, right? As a follower of Jesus. Is this person's walk serious? Are they actually intentional with their pursuit of the Lord? Are they seeking what it is that He's calling them to be? What is their, like, where is their role? Like, are they active in their church communities? Are they seeking accountability? Are they being discipled? You know what I'm saying? Those things. Like, is this person seeing and understanding that for the healthy household for a Christian, the healthy household has to be one that is submitted to God's word and with godly headship and all that good stuff. If we can start valuing those things, dare I say sometimes even more than attractiveness, I think we'll find ourselves in pretty good positions when it comes to our relationships. Don't hear me say attractiveness does matter, and I hope that in the midst of this you don't hear me saying like that it doesn't. It does matter. Like, you can't like attract. You have to be attracted to them. Like, you just have to. It creates a whole bunch of issues later on down the road, especially for women, like the self-esteem issue, like when you find out your man is not really into y'all like that and he's looking at porn and all this other stuff. Like, you don't want that. And for guys, you don't want to constantly feel like the grass is always, I mean, the grass is going to be greener no matter, it's going to look greener no matter what, but you don't want to have to look at that and be like, dang, I think I made a mistake. You know what I mean? You don't want that either. But if you want to solve the red pill, if you want to solve the red pill, understand that men's issues are valid and they have a spot in the conversation. You need to acknowledge that men have issues in society. You need to be willing to validate that and be willing to have a conversation about how those things can be addressed. Because the more and more that you try to ignore it, or the more and more that you try to belittle it, the more and more these red pill guys are going to gain more and more following. Okay? Guys, men out here, okay? Your life, I need you to hear me, hear Brother Damon talking to you right now, okay? Your life is more than the money that you make, the job that you have, and the amount of women that you can smash, okay? If your only goal in life, okay, is just to make a lot of money, get a lot of women, and drive a fast car, you are wasting your life. Wasting it. Because there are a lot of men, 50s and 60s right now, that really wish that they settled down when they were younger. And you don't want to be that old dude at the club still trying to hit on the 20 and 30-year-olds, knowing good and dang well they don't want anything to do with him. You don't want to be a dude in his 50s and 60s that really wished that he made a little bit more out of his life than just those empty and vain things. Okay? I'm not saying that the pursuit of wealth is bad. I'm not saying that. I am going to say that like having multiple sexual partners isn't good. I will say that. You're not going to like that, but it is true. And it actually, there are studies that prove it. It doesn't improve the quality of your relationships. In fact, it actually increases your chances of being unsatisfied in the relationships that you're in, which then creates things like adulterous relationships and things like that. It just creates a whole bunch of issues. So that I will stand on that. And it's not wrong to pursue a good career. But you need to give thought to the character that you have, the type of person that you are. You need to really evaluate what it is that you value out of not only yourself but the people that you interact with, and you need to be honest about what you want out of a woman, but also be willing to humble your expectations even but so much so that you can allow yourself to be or not even be available, but allow yourself to see the women in your life that actually would improve the quality of your life. A woman that would be an excellent mom. Like, you guys know these women exist, bro. And that's why I hate the rep. I can't say I hate them. It's disingenuous to say that at this point, because I do think that they do have a space. But this is what I genuinely don't like about the red pill community, is that they continue to tell you that these women like are all just clout chasing, hypergamous, money hungry chicks. When that like, but they don't tell you that there are women out there that are actually good for you. And then when they try to tell you who they are, the woman that they're describing is the same woman that they hate, or they say that they don't want. The same type of woman, just doesn't flash her breasts on Instagram. Like, it's the same type of woman. So like, that's what I'm saying. Take everything they say with a grain of salt. But you, like, if you actually gave value to the type of woman that you interact with, and then just value women for like their physical attributes, I genuinely believe that you will find a lot more happiness in the relationships that you have, and even the marriages. Because even God says the same thing. Like, you want an attractive woman, yes, but you also want a woman who has an idea of responsibility. She has a work ethic. And women, you got, like, I hate saying this to y'all, but you gotta hear me say this. Being a boss, independent chick, that mindset isn't helping you. It's not helping your relationships at all. There might be some guys that go for that type of stuff, but let's be honest, the type of men that you would get with that type of mindset, I won't say it's rare. It is somewhat rare. Very few of those men are men that you would actually respect. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can have, and in fact you should have some, like, you should be autonomous, right? You shouldn't just be a child, helpless, waiting for some guy to sweep you off your feet. You know what I mean? You should have some measured, like, you should, I say this before, I make it as a joke, but it's true. You should develop some skills. Like, you should develop some skills, be good at something, right? Have some sense of duty, have some sense of responsibility, take care of yourself, right? Your physical health is important, but, like, you don't really need a 6-figure dude. Like, most people in the world can survive off of a joint income of about $70,000. You don't really need a mansion on the hills. You need a stable home. And you need the type of guy that values hard work and faithfulness and the value of being a good father to your children. Like, you guys got to start thinking that way. I got to start getting better at that too. You know what I mean? I got to start being like more intentional with, well, how do I say this? Cuz this let's just say, without saying, I'm not really in a space to think that way right now. I'll just put it that way. But if I were in that space, right, I would have to be very intentional with the type of woman that I would want in my life. You know what I mean? I have to be very intentional with that. I have to be more than just the superficial. Sorry for those of you guys who heard that. There's a creature in my house that is very soon going to understand that this territory is hostile for them. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So, like, I think the more that we start valuing more than just the superficial and actually look for the quality of character of the type of people that we're dealing with, I genuinely believe that we'll have healthier relationships and we probably won't have as much issues as we have now. Optimistic view, I know, but I genuinely believe that. And like I said, jeez, Lord, help me. We gotta be willing to admit that we're average ain't bad. It's not bad. Some of y'all got, Lord help me. Should I say it? I'm gonna say it. Some of y'all got Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion so wrapped up in your heads that you don't realize that they are lying to you. Yeah. Oh yeah, I said it. They are lying to you. You ever notice something? Now, Megan Thee Stallion is different. But you notice a lot of these female rappers that a lot of you guys base your lives off of, but you don't want to admit it, a lot of them are married. And they're the same ones telling you that I don't need no man. But they're married. With children. And are oddly faithful to their relationships. Yeah, y'all gotta start realizing that you're being lied to. Guys, same thing. Y'all keep getting told that the more women you have under your belt, the better life you get. And it's just, well, first off, you're increasing it. And a lot of y'all are going raw. And that is, like, it's just, like, if you're going to be that stupid, at least be smart being stupid. Okay? Like, if you're going to be that ignorant and actually really do just sleep around with a whole bunch of women, at least protect yourself. At least do that so that you don't have unwanted pregnancies and you don't have the risk of getting a venereal disease, which is very real. Guys are taking trips to the clinic like it's a regular weekend thing, and it's not. That's not. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of y'all are lied to. You're being lied to, obviously. And like I said, take everything I say with a grain of salt, too. I ain't no prophet. I'm just trying my best to help, like, at least give some insight into what it is that's happening in the modern day. You know what I mean? But I'm just some guy in front of a computer. You know? I'm a dude who loves Jesus, who's trying to make the best out of the world that he's in, is trying to make sense of what's going on around him, and I want to help other people do that too. So, if you got anything from this, please just understand, life is so much more than the superficial things that you think life is. It is so much more than that. And I think that the less that you focus on those superficial things, the happier you're actually going to be. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. So yeah, Red Pill guys, like I said, I think they have a space. Their voice is, it needs to be heard, but it's by no means should you accept their ideology into your life as this is what life is. Allow their talking points to open up healthy and productive conversations that do need to be had, but in no way, shape, form, or fashion should you ever follow these guys like they're supposed to be your role models. Please don't do that. Okay. There are better examples out there that you can find. For the believers, we have a lot of them. For some of you guys, believers out there, some of you guys is like church pastors and the men's of your church are probably really good examples to look for. I know I have a few of those in my church that I look up to. So yeah, there's examples out there. For those of you who don't have examples, like I said, I don't know how much I can help, but if you want to, you can reach out, see if there's anything that I could help point you in the direction of. But I think that I really do think that there are good things out there that we can all take advantage of. That are right in front of us, but we just have to be willing to see it. And guys, I'm gonna say this again because you need to hear it. Okay, stop chasing after big butts and smiles and ruining your lives because of it. Okay, and also this: stop simping for these women. Some of y'all heard me describe what a simp is before. I'm going to continue to say it because it needs to be said. You are worth more than just being an object. Stop simping for these women. Please stop doing that. Because it's not helping you, and it for dang sure ain't helping them. And you are part of the problem. I love you guys, but doggone, bro. Some of y'all are willingly letting yourselves get played, and you need to chill. It's freaking ridiculous. Oh, my goodness. Did I touch everything? Did I touch on everything I was supposed to talk about? Let me see. Yep. So, yeah. Men's issues are valid. Men's issues are real. And the more you ignore them, the more power you give these red pill folk. So, like I said before, and I'm repeating it, open up the conversation and allow yourself to have it. It's important and it needs to be had. Women are not your enemy. Okay? They've been lied to just like you've been. Men are not your enemy. They never were. It was people in power and that used it against you. Okay? I said this is my first pod back. The India study. We agree on a lot of things, guys. We agree on a lot of things. So I just allow you guys to be healthy. Be healthy towards each other. How about that? Be healthy towards each other. Care about each other. Love each other if you're in that type of relationship. And we're not each other's enemies. We can't be. We need each other to survive. Literally and figuratively, we need each other to survive. So just please allow you guys to be blessed by that. Okay? Love you guys. I genuinely do. All right, so with all being said, that's it. Take care of your mental health. It's important. Value rest. Have a day of rest. It's good for your mental health and good for your physical health. We are not machines. We're not meant to run 24/7. We do need breaks. We all need them. And we all have them. We all got to take them. It's okay to have hobbies. In fact, you should have hobbies. Just don't shut the rest of your life out from them. Just don't shut your life down. How do I say this? It's good to have hobbies, but don't use them so much that you're just trying to escape from reality. Hobbies are a good thing, but they shouldn't be your Neverland, basically. Love one another, but you can't love well unless you love yourself. Care about your neighbor, not just you. I'm not always wrong, and sometimes we're all right. Men's issues are real, women's issues are real, and we need to talk about both if we ever want to get better. Clean your room every once in a while. It actually does help. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Looking forward to doing another one for y'all. It'll probably be a week and a half before I do another one. I'll still figure out the topic, and I'll let you guys know. Follow my Instagram. I give a lot of updates on there, and I also give like little tidbits of information that I don't always cover on these podcasts as well. Little lives and things like that. And if you guys ever have any questions, or if you have ideas that you want to share with me, and we can discover this stuff together, you know what I mean? I got my social media handles in the description and all that. And look, I understand, and I'm gonna say this here. I know my videos are long. We hit the hour 10-minute mark. I am trying my best to get this stuff under an hour. I'm putting timestamps in there for a reason. Use the timestamps, okay? If you don't want to flip through all hour of what I gotta say, the reason why I put the timestamps there is so that you can go to the things that I talk about, okay? So yeah, follow me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter. If you have any questions, or like I said, you have any ideas you want to share, if you really just want to talk, I'm always down for that. So just feel free to send me a message, and we'll go from there. Apart from that, I hope you guys are doing well. Love you guys. Take care of you guys. Take care of yourselves. And that is it. All right, peace.